thanks everyone. Thanks, Paul. This is, I've never quite had to navigate a transition like this before, so appreciate
continue the streak of not getting in a fight with the audience.
Yes, as the tomatoes are under the chairs. Every organization has bureaucracy, big companies, small companies, for-profits, non-profits. Wanted to see if you could talk a little bit about how this plays out in the pharmaceutical and biotech space in terms of friction where businesses might not be functioning as efficiently as possible. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into this space and why is it that, what are the particularities within pharmaceuticals and biotech that leads to some bureaucratic bloat, perhaps?
Sure. Yeah, and thanks for the opportunity here, Patrick. I'm excited for this conversation. So, I think first and foremost, my experience is primarily in the commercial and the communications aspect of biopharma companies, and primarily in companies that have marketed products. And in those companies, what we tend to see is a heavy reliance on traditional advertising to reach their audiences. Much more so than you find in any other sector today. And that's why when you turn on television, it is overrun with pharmaceutical ads.
And insurance, you said.
And insurance, right? Those are the two big ones. And what we're finding is that audiences are essentially opting out because it's a constant source of friction in their lives. And so I ended up, a couple of years ago now, writing a book called Friction Fatigue that really sort of addressed the underlying issues here and why you had this inertia and why companies in particular in biopharma but elsewhere were trying to sort of advertise their way out of these issues instead of being a little bit more precise, right? And so what we discovered in this process is you can sort of simplify the friction that people are experiencing down to two things. The first is going to be their actual experiences with the company, and the second is their expectations. And we know from neuroscience that people make about 30,000 decisions a day. Most of them are just micro decisions being made without you thinking about it. And that those decisions are preceded by some expectation based on your prior experience. And the delta between those two things, whether your experience matches your expectation, is the friction point. Right? So if you fail to meet expectations, that's pretty obvious. There's a friction point there. Doesn't matter if you had high or low expectations, you can still fail to meet it. But then from a commercial standpoint, for companies that are selling drugs, it is also an issue if you're exceeding expectations, right? Because if you're exceeding expectations, that means that people don't know how good of an experience you're offering, right? And so that's where this whole sort of thing came together, was around shedding light on the friction that companies are experiencing, that's really sort of what's gunking up the gears of a lot of products in biopharma are not meeting the expectations people had for them, whether those are customer expectations, employee expectations, investor expectations, or just their own sales forecasts.
Yes. So how do companies unstick themselves?
Unstick themselves, yes, exactly. So, first and foremost, you have to identify the friction points.